Marcus Blake here at the studio at That Nerd Show, and we are talking with director Merced Elizondo over his new film from the USA Film Festival. Welcome to That Nerd Show. I know you've never interviewed with us before, so this will be a little bit different because you'll get some nerdy questions.
First time Nerd Show host, guest.
As you can tell by our studio, yes, we are very nerdy, but we do a lot of independent film with the various film festivals. So
right, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Right.
Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right into it and talk about your film. I'll let you introduce what your film is and what it's about.
Yeah, so I'm the writer, director, and one of the producers on a 33-minute black and white short film called Manos De Oro, which translates to Hands of Gold in English, in case anyone didn't know that. And yeah, the film in a nutshell, basically, it's about a mechanic named Sergio who's struggling with a crippling form of arthritis in his hands, and is no longer the man, the worker, the provider that he used to be. And after getting the opportunity to fix an old family friend's truck, he sort of spirals down into this like crippling anxiety about wanting to be that man that he once was and wanting to be the provider. And through by consequence, through all of that, his relationship that's with his son that's already strained is put to the test. And we kind of see not only Sergio struggle with this arthritis and how it's crippling him from doing what he wants to do, but also what that does to his relationship with the son and how they can come at peace with that, if at all. So yeah, it's a very, very personal film. Like I said, 33-minute. It's relatively long short film. Most people, by all accounts, would call it a medium-length short film. But yeah, black and white, written entirely in Spanish, and just looking forward to see what it does on the festival circuit this year.
Well, I thought it was interesting that you chose the black and white medium for this film. I mean, you hear stories about why people do this. It's usually about money. Trying to put it on actual film.
Right.
I also think there's something poetic and interesting when you look at black and white and shades of gray as a different kind of metaphor.
Right.
Why did you choose black and white?
That's a great question. I was actually having a conversation with a friend about this the other day, and black and white back in the day when things were shot on film, it used to be that was a limitation to people, because color stock was just way more expensive, and to process it in labs is way more expensive. So black and white sort of became the default for the majority of low budget filmmakers. But I think through that, like a beautiful flower bloomed of opportunity where it ended up becoming more of a creative choice and less of a budget limitation. I think that's the way I ended up seeing this film. I had the opportunity to shoot color. It was as easy as it would have been an easy decision to shoot in color or in black and white, and because of digital technology. But I don't know. I mean, I found that, and I've always believed this with a lot of the films that I've enjoyed in the past. Particularly for the French New Wave was a big inspiration to us. Jean-Luc Godard, François Truffaut, Jean-Pierre Melville. Agnes Varda. So those are some of my heroes, and they've shot black and white, handheld, gritty, ugly, grainy film. And that was a look that I wanted to replicate because of what it did to characters on screen. In that, with black and white, there's no room for distractions. You don't have any of the saturation of colors. You don't have sort of things flying at you. It's just period, end of sentence, character. And I like to, especially after Manos De Oro, I like to make films about characters, not plot. Right. And I don't know. I just felt that this format and this visual, black and white, lended itself a lot to this character and his struggle. And it allowed the audience to just only focus on the characters and what they were going through. Nothing flashy with my camera work or nothing with visual effects. It was just a pure character and story decision that I think ultimately turned out great. And since we shot it on a 6K red, but we dirtied it up in post, so we made it look like it wasn't. So we added like a grain layer to it, 35mm grain, and it's a look that I'm really proud of.
I've always come to the conclusion that it is the shades of gray that really determine your character study. That is the ultimate metaphor there that you can't really always capture with color.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you're dealing with a character that's struggling, struggling to find his identity again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is, we think the worst tragedy for any kind of artist that uses his hands to get arthritis, but artists come in different forms. If you are a mechanic and you build cars, hot rods, whatever, there's an art to that. And if you lose that ability, then, are you really an artist anymore?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're sort of rendered useless, right? I mean, or at least in your head you are, because, this, as I mentioned, this is a very personal story that was inspired by my dad getting sick. He's been a mechanic all his life, like doing, electrical work on cars. And yeah, I mean, his biggest pain, to be honest, was, I mean, surely the pain that he was in physically was just immense, but it was a psychological pain of not being able to work and being able to use his hands and getting dirty, being out with his boys late, like that. That's sort of what inspired me to look at this and go, okay, well, there's something there. And then I put myself in his shoes, and I thought, well, geez, I mean, if someone were to strip away filmmaking from me, thankfully, I mean, I don't need, I do need my hands, but if God forbid I get them, removed somehow or whatever, I would feel terrible. I would feel like I've been sucked away of my life, because it is my life, and it's just, you want to empathize with people like that. You really do.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, you take away the tools for any artist, and there's always that period of adjustment. You talk about this being a personal story inspired by your father. How did your father, get over this? What kind of adjustment did he make?
Yeah, well, so just a kind of a bit of a background story here, but in October of 2018, I believe, he came down with like this out of nowhere, seemingly a weird nervous system condition where he was basically in a hospital bed for a month, and his face was a little paralyzed and contorted. He couldn't move much, and it was awful because my dad's never really suffered from that, and my family as a unit, we've never really experienced something like that, thankfully. But luckily he got through it. He's out. Matter of fact, he's at work right now at his shop, a mechanic shop in Oak Cliff, and he got through it through a lot of treatment, a lot of therapies, a lot of medication. But to this day, funny enough, we actually don't know what it is that happened to him. I mean, I think at best we sort of knew that it was a nervous system condition, but that's sort of all we could figure out. It's actually really bizarre how it all unfolded, but yeah, I mean, he's an obsessive workaholic. At the day he was out of the hospital, he wanted to be right back at work. And it's interesting because I'm the exact same way, but only in the matter of filmmaking, because I love what I do. I mean, I love writing, I love directing, I love putting stories together. And to some degree, I feel like that's the one trait. There might be many more, I don't know, but the one that I can calculate for sure is my obsessive workaholism.
Yeah,
because of my dad, because he's a relentless worker.
Well, but is it really workaholism if you are working for doing something that you love?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
I don't see it that way. Now, I mean, I've got a girlfriend who things different, but I'm just like, but again, if you're doing something that you love, isn't it the worst thing is to take away your ability to do it or the time away to do it, and all your
no, I agree, but I also think that like the ism there of workaholism also lends itself to some issues, I think, because let's say you have a family, for example, let's say you have kids, right, and you have your head so neck deep in the work that you look up and everyone's gone, or if you've distanced yourself from your loved ones and you think, well, dang, right, I love what I do, but everyone hates me, and I felt some of that to some degree when I was making my first film. That's my first short film. I have a lot of friends, and I'm from Dallas that still live here, and every weekend, like, Merced, do you want to go to dinner? Do you want to go out? And it's like, no, I gotta work. And before I knew it, one day out of the blue, I realized like, oh, wow, they've stopped calling or they've stopped messaging me and inviting me out. And I want to be able to still be invited and say no, but I'm not even being given the chance. So there is a danger there. I found in the few years that I've been doing this, I haven't been doing it long, about 5-6 years now, but it's important to have a life. It's important to like try to, I don't know, take a day off, watch a movie, like take a walk, do something that's like what normal people do. And I've struggled to try to do that. It's really been a pain in the ass because I love working, but I'm making the effort. I really am.
So you kind of get with this film, you kind of get the middle between actually doing a feature and then doing like an actual short film.
Yeah.
Why 30 minutes? Do you feel like that it could have been shorter, or this is the perfect amount of time to tell this story?
Well, I mean, I've gotten a little pushback saying that basically made a network episode of television 30 minutes. But I mean, which is true, but like, I don't know. I knew the film was going to be long. I was anticipating it to be around 25 minutes. And then my rough cut of the film, like my assembly cut, my editor delivered it and it was like 49 minutes. And I thought, okay, that's just absurd. That's pretty much bordering feature territory. So we had to scale it back. And there are a lot of scenes that were cut from the film that will never see the light of day. I don't have a director's cut. I mean, I do sort of to some degree, but it isn't finalized with final color and the final mix. I was really, to tell you the truth, I was really aiming to get it right at 30 minutes or under. And there is a version of it that is about 30 minutes, but we were going to move forward with it. And then at the last second, I just told my editor, like, it's not working. It needs a little more breathing room. It needs a little more buildup. It needs to earn its ending. And I felt that it was getting to that ending too quickly to the point where I just didn't feel it was justified. And it sort of broke my heart because, you know, we ultimately put the scenes that I wanted back in and I extended certain scenes here and there, and it ended up being 33 minutes. And I thought, well, I just sort of have to make peace with that. Now, I knew that the festival landscape for us would be very difficult because you look at festivals like an Austin Film Festival, USA Film Festival, for example, where we're playing this Friday. You look at Sundance, South by, I mean, name any festival and, you know, they'll have, say, an hour, 2 hours to program their films. And what's more appealing to them, right? Programming 5-minute short films or 125-minute short film. You know, it's if you're going to be that long, you don't just have to be good. You have to be a capital M masterpiece. And I'm not saying our film is, but I just knew that this is a story that I wanted to tell, and this is a story that I'm comfortable with.
I think anytime you tell a story, once you get done with it, editing through all the process, you find that perfect. That's part of it, is you find the perfect amount of time it takes to tell that story, no matter how long it is. I mean, I'm not, you know, there are filmmakers that can't seem to stop, and there will be 4 or 5 hour films, and you have to kind of. I get that, but then at some point you're questioning: is this really a film, or did I just make a mini series?
Yeah, exactly. You know? I just make a limited series for HBO for six-part episode.
Right, exactly. But
yeah, exactly.
So you shot this. You shot this around Dallas, right?
Around Dallas, yeah. In October of 2019, 6-day shoot. We shot the main house in the film is in Arlington, but we shot a couple scenes in Oak Cliff. Where else did we shoot? Yeah, I mean, really, one of the bigger locations was in Oak Cliff, which is my dad's shop, and that sort of gets to a larger point. Like I write with what I have in mind, so I knew my dad would let me use the shop. It's like, okay, let me write a scene at the shop, and then let me write a scene at the gas station nearby because that's a friend of his, and then I just sort of write within my means, you know. But yeah, 6-day shoot, and it's crazy how this all happened actually. But the day my dad was admitted to the hospital, October 16th of 2018. Our 6th day, our final day, a year later, October 16th, 2019, that's the day we wrapped the film, which is like crazy. It's crazy to think about how it all like just it's poetic to some degree, and I don't know. I can never really find that.
You know, that leads me into being able to, you know, be a filmmaker during COVID. It sounds like you got this done shooting wise, literally right before the pandemic.
Yeah, October 2019. Yeah, and then the world turned on fire.
Yeah, I know. How did the pandemic affect what you were trying to do with this film? I mean, did it pretty much put you on a delay for a year?
Oh my God, yeah, no, it changed everything for us. I mean, I remember sitting in my editor's like editing suite in his living room, and we were just scrolling through the news that South by Southwest had been canceled, and we thought, what? Like, we just could not believe that this historic festival was just being canceled, and we couldn't believe it was on a Friday. I'll never forget it. And I think in the couple of weeks that unfolded after, we realized that this was a bigger deal than anyone ever thought it would be. And yeah, as it affected us, I mean, it just delayed everything. Not just our festival release strategy, but just the film's post-production process as a whole. I mean, I couldn't meet with my editor. We had to do everything remotely. So I like sitting right next to my editor and making changes on the fly. But it had to be a lot of back and forth. Let me send you the film. Let me give you notes. And it was super tedious. With my sound mixer in Austin, it just slowed things down. With my composer, it slowed things down. Yeah, it was tough.
Here's a question. What do you think? Did you learn more in film school, or did you learn more about how to do a film during a pandemic?
Well, I'll tell you what, I actually didn't go to film school, but I can tell you that I mean, I learned everything. I learned how to be more of a collaborator and more of a communicator because I had to be. Like, we had literally no choice, Marcus. Like, we had to absolutely be transparent with one another because I couldn't sit there and look at my baby. I couldn't look at this project that I've been working on for a year, 2 years. And, I learned so much. I got so much out of this personally and professionally. But yeah, I'll tell you what, it did suck that our film has had to play, and it has, affected us even now. Our film is playing at festivals online, which sucks, man, because like we shot this, like I said, in 6K. We shot it in this beautiful like European widescreen aspect ratio 1:6:6. It's meant to be, and we mixed it in 5:1. We did a surround sound mix on it. We actually have a Dolby Atmos mix of it that we have to get Dolby's approval of, but like it exists at some point. So my point being, the film was always made with the full intention of being seen in a theater, in an audience. And that's why I'm really happy that it's screening at the USA Film Festival tonight at the Angelica, because this will be the first time I get to see my film in a theater in front of a live audience that isn't, my living room or like friends and family. Like, actual people are going to get to watch it, and I'm going to be able to see their reaction. I'm going to be able to see, as a collective, are those scenes doing what I think they're supposed to be doing? Because I think the theater is the ultimate litmus test, in my opinion.
Speaking of family, has your dad and the rest of your family seen this film?
It's an interesting question. So all of my family has seen it, everyone except my dad. And he's insisted it's because he wants to watch it on the big screen. And I'm like, okay, man, well, now's your chance. But also, I feel like, to be honest, I mean, in a lot of ways, I felt like it might have been like looking in the mirror sometimes, because it is so personal, and it is so, I mean, there are some like tough scenes that are written in the film, and then that were shot that I think are very hard to swallow to some degree. But now's his chance to get to watch it, and he'll be able to get to watch it in the theater, in the surround sound setting, at my favorite theater in town. Man, I love the Angelica. I've been going there for years, so it's pretty poetic.
So Oak Cliff, I have always found that Oak Cliff is such a weird and kind of interesting place to shoot, especially with the changes that have like really come out of Oak Cliff, with them, redoing like Bishop parts. You get this mixture of their own version of gentrification, sort of, but everything else that has made Oak Cliff, being more of a poor part of Dallas, but also a melting pot of different cultures and stuff. What is it about Oak Cliff in itself, shooting there, compared to the rest of the Metroplex?
Well, I mean, it's what I know. I mean, it's where I grew up. It's my family. It's my people. It's my culture. I'm a proud Texan, Dallasite, Oak Cliffian, whatever we're called. But I think it's two things, really. It's the people, and it's three things: people, culture, and attitude. People, in the sense that it is a melting pot of a lot of different diverse people that look like me, talk like me, or don't. And I think that's the point. And I love that. As far as attitude goes, I mean, you sort of carry that, toughly on your shoulders, because it is, by all accounts and standards, usually a little more of a rougher place to grow up, to some degree. But thankfully I grew up in a very safe home. Like I was never in danger. But like you get a sense that like there are things around you. There's crime around you. You're gunshots, and it's like when you grow up around that, that sort of leaves a mark on you. But I had a wonderful safe childhood, thankfully. But I'm blissfully aware of where I'm from and the background that sort of and the culture that comes along with that. And as far as culture goes, man, I mean, there's just so much history in Oak Cliff, of people that have not only come out of there but live there, and a culture that's sort of come out of putting tons of different people together. Like it's become its own little subset of Dallas. And now, as you alluded to, like, yeah, it is being gentrified a lot, but I find that a lot of, that could be for better, for worse.
Sure.
You could clean up some of the crime, which is fine, but not at the expense of losing what made Oak Cliff so sacred.
Right.
Because if you replace a small taqueria with a Chipotle, we're gonna have a problem, because that's what makes us, and I love that. So it's home.
Yeah.
To me, it's home. To me, it's 100% home, and I'll always see it that way.
Do you feel like that Oak Cliff is more honest? I mean, the people are more honest and raw about who they are compared to, like, say, Highland Park or Plano.
I think they have to be because they don't have a choice. They have to be honest because it's either pay the bills or don't, and that's as honest as it gets, right? It's either I do this or I don't. I think, and not to say that this is like a general. I don't want to like generalize Highland Park or any of the uptown areas in Dallas because those are fine areas too. But like, when you grow up with privilege, when you grow up with money, that can do something to you. That can do something to your attitude. That can do something to your outlook. To some degree, you can hide behind that. I think in Oak Cliff, there is a level of honesty that is necessary because you cannot hide behind anything other than your circumstance. Like you just sort of have to push forward and push forward and not meander, just get shit done.
So what do you feel like this story is already done? Like you've done in just 30 minutes, or do you feel like this story can be a feature or expanded on?
I do. It's funny. You bring up the whole aspect of Oak Cliff. There is a story in me that I want to tell 20, 30 years down the road, once I'm a more established, more veteran filmmaker, like my Roma, if you will, of like Alfonso Cuarón's film, about Oak Cliff and about my upbringing. I think as it relates to Manos De Oro, I think there will be a lot of that in that. But I think as a whole, I've always wanted to tell a story about code switching to some degree because I grew up speaking Spanish. I also grew up speaking English, and it's interesting because the way I have to turn on my Spanish side and the way I have to turn on my just like a regular everyday voice when I have to turn on my professional voice, like I think that's another reason that I find Oak Cliff so honest because you just have to be purely yourself, but also turn to some degree sides on that you might have never thought you had. So I don't know. I've always wanted to tell a story that was about my home, my city, where I'm from, and then definitely put the family dynamics of Manos De Oro in that. So I don't think I'm done with this. I'll probably revisit this 15, 20, 30 years from now. But that is, I don't know. I just feel that I can only do that as a veteran filmmaker, having grown up, and then I don't know, like having the benefit of hindsight to be able to soak all that in and then transpose that to visuals, to sound,
Yeah. Well, again, you're getting back to Oak Cliff, and I got a really good friend of mine who's in Scotland now, getting masters in playwriting, who's from Oak Cliff, and her and I have had numerous discussions because I've never lived there, and it's
right.
There's so many little things that add to a location that make it perfect for telling stories or shooting. But for anybody that knows anything about Dallas filmmaking, I think one of the best stories that I've ever heard is, when they were shooting JFK here in Dallas 30 years ago, they could have easily built a set to, make the Texas theater, but they're like, and Oliver Stone was like, no, we're going to do it there. We're going to, where Gary Oldman's going to be. And, and it wasn't even really a theater at the time. They had to fix it up to make it look
they had to dress it up. Yeah, they did.
But it was the place. And I think that's kind of the mystique about that, because you can go in there and, they'll tell you about, where he was sitting when he was finally arrested. And so there again, it gets back to it being more real and more honest, that you have to be in that location to be able to tell iconic parts of a story.
There's a feeling to it. I mean, I'll actually be at the Texas Theater this Sunday to watch the Oscars watch party. They do one every year, and I can't wait. You know, I was there last year, and then a month later the pandemic happened. But I don't know. I love that place, to tell you the truth. We were actually going to do a private screening of Manos De Oro last July. But because of the pandemic, everything just had to be pushed back. And we're aiming for August of this year now, which is over a year later. And even then, I don't know if like people, because we're expecting a large crowd, like of 200 plus people. I just don't know if people will be safe being in that large a group of people. But, you know, who's to say? But I love the Texas Theater. I think what they've done for cinema, and I think the culture of cinema in Dallas as a whole has really been elevated over the years. You know, you look at filmmakers like David Lowery coming out of Dallas and Texas. It's amazing, you know, to be able to look at that. And you look at other figures like Richard Linklater coming out of Austin. That is sort of someone that I've always seen, you know, whose career I've wanted to emulate. But in Dallas, you know, that I want to be that, you know, with my own perspective and my own twist to the stories that I tell. But it's a cool spot, man. I mean, there's a lot of hidden gems that I've yet to, you know, uncover in my films, but I'm going to keep doing that if it's the last thing I do. And then, yeah, I mean, I know that I have more stories for me on the road. I'd love to, you know, shoot films in Europe and Mexico. But home base, I think, will always be here in Dallas, at least the way I feel now.
Well, it may not be LA, or it may not even be Austin, but I think there is something profoundly special about being able to shoot film here in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at it as, I mean, think of all the TV shows that, you know, have used this as a location that,
you know, my God, yeah. There's one coming out on Hulu today, Cruel Summer, that was shot here. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It was on our list of things to check out. But of course, you know, we're nerds, so priority takes the last episode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the Mortal Kombat movie, you know.
I mean, doesn't that come out today, right?
Yeah, it is on HBO Max. We saw it earlier in the week, but I'm
yeah. Any quick thoughts? I haven't seen it yet. Any thumbs up, thumbs down?
It's a fun, great, campy movie. They did a really good job. I'm looking forward to seeing how they, you know, expand on it. I still love the '90s movies, but again, I mean, it's when they keep updating the Mortal Kombat game, you know, I look at the movies the same way. It's like, it's good to update it and have these fun characters and stuff. And it's a great action movie. I mean,
yeah, totally. I mean, it's for entertainment's sake. I mean, I think it's gonna do what it's supposed to do. I saw someone on Twitter yesterday, or it might have been some of the press people, that said that, and maybe you can, since you've seen the film, you can tell me or not, but is there no Mortal Kombat in the film? Like,
well, I mean,
someone was complaining, like, how dare they not do that?
It is and it isn't. I mean, they're obviously trying to make more films and trying to set it up, but I mean, if you're looking for like the actual tournament, like you saw, not really, but it's a different take on it. That's the only thing. All I'm saying for that movie is you watch it because you want to see the choreography match what you get into the video game.
Yeah.
And anybody that plays that game is, you know, and we play it a lot. It's one of our premier fighting games for gaming tournaments. You're going to recognize all the moves, the fatality moves, and all that. So that I praise them for that. But
you know, I've never played games before. I've never been much of a gamer, but Mortal Kombat was always for me one that I really enjoyed a lot. Like I was a big fan as a kid.
All right, well, it's time for our nerdy question. And before we get to that, as you said, your film is premiering at the USA Film Festival. So if you are in Dallas, you can check that out. And we hope to see it more on the big screen as we're getting past this pandemic and everybody's getting vaccinated now. So,
yeah, that's right.
All right, the nerdy question, the question we ask all of our filmmakers: if you could have a weapon of choice or a superpower from within the nerd universe to fight the forces of evil, what would you choose? And you can have more than one, because there are superheroes that have more than one power.
You know, I had one in mind when you asked me this at the beginning. I'm going to shift a little bit. I think Who was the character that I'm gonna, because we were talking about Mortal Kombat, I'm gonna stick to this theme here. Who was the character in Mortal Kombat that had the hat that like was a blade and he would throw it? It was like Liu Kang's brother. And was it Ray? No, it wasn't
Uh,
Raiden.
Kung Lao.
Kung Lao. Okay, I would 100% have Kung Lao's hat because when I was playing the game, I remember like his moves with the hat, throwing it to people
Yes.
was the coolest thing ever. I thought that was so amazing. So that's always stuck with me. So I'm gonna say if I had to fight the forces of evil, I would have Kung Lao's super sharp hat and just chop people's heads off.
Well, well, I'm not going to give away complete spoilers for those who have not seen the film. If you like that character and you like that hat, then you will definitely like him in this film in one of the greatest fatality scenes ever. That's all I will say.
Oh my God, Marcus. All right, I know what I'm doing this weekend. Incredible. Awesome.
I know, and I agree. That is one of the best characters from Mortal Kombat. It's like you're fighting, and all of a sudden the hand, it just hat comes off, and it's a saw.
It's just, I mean, it like physically, like it defies physics 100%.
Right.
But God damn, is it cool? You know, it's so cool.
And nobody expects it either. That makes it a great weapon.
Exactly, dude. I mean, no one I think ever wakes up and thinks that they're gonna get their heads chopped off with a hat. So I think it's pretty gangster.
Great answer. I agree. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for interviewing with us, and good luck with the film and what you do with it. I hope that you get the response that you've been wanting for a year.
Thank you.
Finally on the big screen.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Marcus. Thanks for having me, man.